tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika. Chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
Let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us make Africa the tree of life. This is Smartness TV Africa. My name is Katum Mukasa. I'm Ugandan, interested in issues, development, and of course, empowering of our people. Smartness TV Africa is a registered charity. We're a charity organization registered to spread information that can help our people get out of poverty. Today, we want to encourage you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook, our TikTok, our website, which is Smartness TV Africa, so we can be able to take our message further and further. We have an email right on your screen. Our WhatsApp number is right there, and of course, our website is right there. We have studios in Uganda, Kenya. We have studios in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, UK, and the US, and we are growing, opening up more studios. Today, we are back with our library important program on food safety and rights, consumer rights. And of course, as usual, we have our experts in the studio, Mr. Kimera Henry and Mr. Bernard Bamba. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And of course, in the studio, who you don't see is Dennis Bongo in Uganda to do the production for the show. Now, we are back with such a wonderful show. We are going to have a recap from the previous show, and Mr. Bamba is going to be giving us that very recap. Mr. Bamba, take us through what we covered last time.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mukasa, and welcome on board our members who are watching us out there. And of course, welcome to the elder, Mr. Chimera, for creating the time to speak to our viewers. Of course, last time we were discussing issues around aflatoxins, and basically we're looking at what is the role of each of the members when it comes to prevention and control of the aflatoxins, but of course also relating it with the impact of aflatoxins on the different issues, especially around trade, around nutrition, around health, and then also looking at what can be done at different levels. I know that we discussed what can be done at the farmer level, what can be done at the national level, what can be done by the different actors. So basically last Saturday, we were really brainstorming on what can be done to improve the status quo of the aflatoxin contamination in the food. And of course, building on that today, being our last Saturday, discussing the aspect of aflatoxins, of course, for the first phase. I know we shall come back again sometime in the future to discuss the same topic, but of course, looking at other things. So today we want now to go into understanding now, wrapping up everything that we have been talking about, so that in situations you miss any of the sessions, this is the right session for you to grab all this information. You'll be able to catch up with us. So we shall go back to the basics. We shall be able to look at what are these aflatoxins, where do they come from, how do they manifest, how do they affect populations in terms of health, in terms of trade, in terms of nutrition, how is it associated with disease, and then also we shall be looking at again what are the roles of each one of us, how can we contribute to the prevention and management of aflatoxins in Africa, in Uganda, in your household, etc. So our viewers, you're most welcome, and we pledge that we shall give you the best we can. We shall share with you the best information that you can ever have. But also, we ask you to pay attention, listen in, send us your comments, subscribe to the channel, and of course, give us all the views that you would want us to improve, or maybe which other new topics you would want to understand on this subject. So I and Mr. Chimera will be taking us through. Our colleague Agnes is likely to join us during the course of the discussion. Professor Kaya will not be able to be with us today. Yeah, he lost a relative, so we pray for him and the soul of the deceased. So that is how we're going to move on during the course of this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Thank you so much for a recap. Our viewers, that is Bernard, consumer activist and expert on food issues and, of course, rights. Mr. Kimera is going to be taking us through the risks, factors, and other issues in regard to aflatoxins. Mr. Kimera, the floor is yours now.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Paul, like I always say, it is a great honor. Like I said in the beginning, these are small steps in the right direction. Ever since we started, we trust that a number of colleagues have learned, and we are also learning from the feedbacks that they share with us. So colleagues, like I always say, food safety, I will not say it looks like, but it is the foundation of our humanity. First things that we do is we consume. If the air we breathe in is not clean, it will affect your lung. If the water we drink is not good, it will bring in many aspects. Some of them that we commonly know are cholera, typhoid, and so forth. Now, if the food we take in is not safe, it becomes poison. The same with medicine that we get in our health centers. But food, once it is safe, it well applies to be medicine because it will make your body strong and make it immune. Food is healthcare. Now, we have dealt with the topic of aflatoxin. We have seen aflatoxin comes in many forms, but most of the times, apart from the natural occurrence, studies and aspects are showing that most of the times it is human negligence. How we handle food not following good agricultural practices at the farm level, not following good agricultural practice during harvesting, not following good handling practices after harvesting, during storage, during transportation, not good handling practices or processing and manufacturing practices during processing, not good handling practices at market level and at home level. So all these aspects of not following good practices, I will not even talk about agriculture, following a quality culture, following the culture leads to dangerous aspects like aflatoxins or microtoxins in the food system. So, from a layperson's perspective, it is very important to follow good practices which manifest into a quality culture, which quality culture would be a link where you think whatever you are doing, am I doing the right thing? Will it be safe for the other? Will it be good for my business? Will it be good for my family? Will it keep us safe as a community, right from your household into the community? So good practices, a quality culture If you are in a food business, food safety culture, following standards, following regulations is very key. As we are wrapping up, I would like to go back and bring in aspects. Issues of food safety do not only end with farmers, food businesses, and consumers. It brings in the duty bearers. And this is where we would like issues to do with policy, legal, regulatory, and the institutions that will facilitate our safety. Institutions that will empower those that are in food business so that they do not give us food that will affect our health. That is from the policy perspective, and this will be with our government, ministries, departments, agencies have to play a key role there by making sure that the frameworks that facilitate good practices, quality culture, food safety, and health business are in position to facilitate. Further, we'll find that in a number of countries or in our continent, there are multiple agencies, there are multiple ministries. There is a need to coordinate the public sector, the private sector, the consumers, to be in position to address the challenges that come with food safety and in particular aflatoxins. When that happens, there is a great need to empower consumers, the consumers of this food, consuming them in our schools, consuming them at home, in food restaurants and so forth. But to educate the consumers to get to know that if food is not safe, it is not food, it is not healthy, it brings a food burden onto yourself as an individual, as a community, as a country, as a continent, as a global world. So aspects of awareness are very key. Other aspects of continuous research to come up with solutions to mitigate the challenges of, let's say, human cause, which are even natural, but the other thing is investment in mitigation measures is very key. So, Paul and our listeners, I thought that giving that curtain riser, going into a little detail and icing the cake, when Bernard comes in and wraps up all by picking up of some of the aspects that I've raised in curtain riser and brings in the scientific and technical aspects, can help us to wrap up the aflatoxin aspects in one month a marathon that we have run with regards to food safety and fraud, with specific focus on aflatoxins. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chimera. Thank you so much, Mr. Chimera, for that wrap-up. Today we are wrapping up a one-month marathon of a show in which we have been talking about aflatoxins. Right now, our viewers must be knowing what are aflatoxins, how they get into our health, and how we can prevent them now. We are wrapping up this show. Mr. Bernard is going to tell us who is at risk and how do we control this. Of course, we have images that will be running as he teaches us. Mr. Bernard, back to you. Who is at risk and how do we prevent these risks?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mukasa, and thank you, Henry, for giving us the background of where we're coming from. Now, of course, we've been learning about the subject for quite some time. And of course, now we know that there is a particular mold or fungus that is responsible for this. And this fungus, specifically Aspergillus flavus, it's a very notorious kind of fungus that comes in the food and causes this kind of the aflatoxin stuff we are talking about. And of course, we know that, by the way, most of the cereals and most of the food that we eat in our homes are all at risk of getting contaminated with aflatoxin, as long as the moisture content in which they are stored is actually favorable for that fungus. Now, the other time we had also shared with our members that what facilitates this fungus actually to grow in the food. And one of the things we talked about was that the soil is the best medium for transfer of this fungus as long as there's moisture that is favorable for it. So every time a person gets food and puts it on bare ground, you're actually creating an environment for those molds to grow. Every time someone gets food and puts it on a tarmac road, you're creating an environment where this has to grow. Every time you're growing or you're putting food on top of rusted iron sheets, you're creating an opportunity for this to grow. And now this particular fungus is very, very stubborn that every time it enters the food, it is very difficult for you to remove it. It's easy to enter there, but very difficult to remove it. So the best option we have is to prevent this fungus from actually entering the food, because once it's there, you need very high temperatures to actually start breaking this aflatoxin. And yet in your kitchen or in our kitchens, we can never have that high temperature that can actually break down this. So we are talking about 420 degrees, which you cannot get in your kitchen. So the different ways of how people are handling food, drying it on tarmac roads, letting the animals urinate there and creating some bit of moisture, it brings people at a risk of having contaminated food. But also, going to a household, when you look at the way we store food, you realize that we are keeping it in damp places, or you have a particular place you're keeping food, but then that place has some bit of connection with water. Or maybe you are using a cup which is wet to scoop the food and whatever, and then you increase moisture content to allow these molds to grow. And at the end of the day, the food gets contaminated with aflatoxins. And also, we had also said that once the food has aflatoxins and you consume them in large amounts, the moment the aflatoxins are in the body in large amounts, they start binding to micronutrients that are important to the body. And that means that when the micronutrients are bound, the body cannot have ability to use those nutrients. And so you find that children get a challenge with stunting because the brain is not able to grow well, because the molds, the aflatoxins have already bound the nutrients that are responsible for growth and development of these children. And then at the end of the day, you find that we have cases of malnutrition, stunting, and other forms of malnutrition. But also we realize that every time you have aflatoxins, high concentrations in the liver, during the time when the liver is supposed to work on these toxins, the liver is overwhelmed, and so it is not able to break down these aflatoxins. And at the end of the day, they can be able to cause a challenge with the liver, and that's why liver disease or liver cancers are highly associated with aflatoxins. So you can imagine if you provided a school with aflatoxin-rich foods, it means that all the children going to eat that portion or that maize meal are at risk of having liver cancer because they will be having this in large amounts. Imagine someone is taking porridge in the morning, lunch, and dinner. They are all having maize flour, maize meal. So the quantity of aflatoxins consumed could cause a risk of these students to have a challenge. And so looking at this, we also said that aflatoxin composition in our bodies could actually limit the immune system because the nutrients that are responsible for immunity are already tampered with. So people become immune suppressed, meaning that their immunity is lower, and every single disease that comes their way, it will hit them down. And so at the end of the day, people have weaker immune systems, and so they can die easily of disease. Or when they get treatment, the treatment may not work satisfactorily because the body is suffering locally from the aflatoxin. Now, given that background, it means that there are quite a number of people who are at increased risk than others, especially when they consume aflatoxins. And one of them are the pregnant women. So pregnant women are actually at increased risk of having challenges when they consume food that has a lot of aflatoxins. Why? Because their immune system is already having challenges with the pregnancy situation. Two, they are feeding children, the fetus. Someone is pregnant, and so the fetus is dependent on what this mother is consuming. So every time the mother is taking aflatoxin in the food, it means when the fetus is actually having the aflatoxin. So the aflatoxins are already hindering the nutrients of the mother, and therefore they are also hindering the nutrients of the fetus. So at the end of the day, the fetus fails to grow inside there. And so a child is born stunted or immature. or even sometimes those children can die inside there. So a mother has a stillbirth, what we call stillbirth. A child is born dead just because there was so much concentration of aflatoxins in the food that the mother was eating, and that becomes a challenge altogether. So mothers who are pregnant are at so much increased risk. We also look at the mothers who are lactating, the mothers who are breastfeeding. Every time a mother has high concentration of aflatoxins in their bodies, the likelihood of aflatoxins actually showcasing in the milk, in the breast milk, is also very high. So you'll find that now a mother is feeding a baby on milk, breast milk, that is actually highly infected with aflatoxins, and so it brings back the challenges that I just mentioned before. So the pregnant and lactating mothers are really people who are at risk of having challenges when they consume this kind of food. And then, of course, we talk about children under the age of 5. Of course, the age of under 5, these kids are still growing. You know, they need to come up with their potentials. They need to grow. They need a lot of nutrients, actually, especially micronutrients, to enable them, catch up with the growth, especially the vitamins, the minerals, the protein. But all those nutrients have a challenge with aflatoxins. The moment there's high quantities of aflatoxins in the food that this baby is taking, then they're at increased risk of having failure to absorb the nutrients that they have consumed in the food. And what comes out? Malnutrition, immune suppression. Some of them die. I mean, those challenges that come along with having so much concentration of aflatoxins, then the children they get challenges. So there is growth retardation. There is all these problems that come along when people are eating this. But also remember, the children are eating a lot of food, and their food is all at risk. For example, many of the children under 5 are actually victims of consuming milk. Almost every child under 5 consumes milk from cows, from goats, and whatever. Now, if the cow consumed food or feed that had aflatoxins, those aflatoxins, from research, you can be able to find aflatoxins in the eggs, in the meat, in the milk. So, and yet these are the foods that actually most of those children are dependent on at the time of weaning. So it means that when the child consumes all these foods, as long as they are contaminated with aflatoxins, then they are at increased risk of having larger quantities of aflatoxins, and then the other problems come on board that I've just mentioned above. Now, the other people who are at risk, of course, they are students, the school-going children. Now, for them, what predisposes them is the fact that while they're at school, they're eating a lot of food that are actually prone to aflatoxins. So many of them in Uganda specifically, every school will have posho, or the maize meal. And I don't know who told us that people should eat portion beans. I don't know where that came from. It's just a mindset that, we have to eat this, but that is not the truth. Why should children eat portion beans for the whole 3 months? And we are busy talking about monotonous diet. You get it? We are talking about monotonous diet, and yet the schools where we have so many children are actually consuming posho and beans. And actually, this is actually what is driving a lot of monocropping, because everyone is planting beans and posho because there's already a market for schools. And then they end up handling it poorly because they want quicker money from the schools. And yet they forget that actually their children too will be in those schools, and they're supposed to be getting the money to undertake this. So our farmers have to be very sensitive that even them, they will become pregnant, they will be lactating, they will have their children in school, they will have babies. And so the moment you tell people to get exposed to this kind of aflatoxin, you are not only creating a challenge to other people, but also to yourself. Now, those are the key persons actually who are at increased risk. Maybe the other category of people who suffer most when they consume these are people who have already other comorbidities, like those who are living with non-communicable diseases, hypertension, diabetes, the cancers, and etc. Now, the moment they keep eating a lot of aflatoxin, the more they are at risk of suffering even locally, because one, their immunity is going to go down, and when their immunity goes down, it simply means that when the food they are eating is not going to make sense, because already the nutrients that would be boosting them up are already bound by the aflatoxin. So at the end of the day, they either die early, they become weaker, and they end up staying indoors for a very long time, and yet they could actually be doing other work. but because of the too much concentration of aflatoxins in the food they are eating, then it becomes problematic. Now, for malnourished children, if malnourished children start eating food with aflatoxins, for them actually they may end up dying very quickly because already all of their body systems are already affected by the nature of the malnutrition they are suffering from. So the moment now they have too much food that has high levels of aflatoxin, then their death is actually easier. Actually, they die earlier because the systems then get even worse. They end up now dying. So those are the risky groups that we have. And therefore, to save the society from those risks, to save the community members I've just talked about, then we need as much as possible to ensure that these children, to ensure that these mothers are not having access to aflatoxin-rich foods. And how we do that, we need to make sure that, one, we improve the quality of the seeds we plant. How are farmers picking the seeds to plant? How are we harvesting? How are we managing the post-harvest handling? How are we drying our food? Where are we drying it from? We handle those basics. And last week we said that people who are selling food from the gardens harvest food early and dry it home in a safer place than leaving it in the garden and it has dried and then it rains tomorrow. That's where the problem is. People leave the food there and then it rains in the morning. The maize is already dry, and then now in the morning the rain comes, so the maize goes back to the wet state, and then the mold starts growing. You find people having food in the taxi parks. There's a lot of mess when it comes to this kind of situation. So those are the key areas that we could talk about in terms of risk and how we can prevent the risk. So I think those are the that I can share now. Yeah.
I'll get back to you in a while. Thank you so much, Mr. Bernard. Really, I'm learning here. I want to share with you something. As the producer gave us the images, Dennis, those images are very important to me, and I think to the viewers. Now, look at how we save our food. Look at how we dry our food in Africa, much of Africa. This is really bad. Whoever is watching us, please learn from this. There's no you can have safe food when you're putting it on the ground. There's no you can have safe food when you are putting it on that dirty carpet, dirty tarpaulin. There's no way you can have safe food when you're putting it on the sides of a road, tarmac road. There's no way you can have food when the goats actually are feeding part of the food we are going to use to sell to us. The goats are putting their waste into the food, and then tomorrow we are also buying the same food. Now, this is dangerous, honestly, and these images are important because you wanted this show to help our viewers see how badly we store food in many of our villages, so that we can learn to do better. Look at how we store our food. Look at how we dry our food back home. And then tomorrow we are complaining we have stomach problems. Our children are getting stunted. Even when we feed them, they're always having stomach problems. I should tell you that actually my children always have stomach problems when they go to school. I should tell you this. When my children go back to school in the boarding section, they are always having stomach problems. Every time we are having stomach problems, and we are buying medicine. I even know the medicines now in my head, that if they're having a problem here, go and buy this. If they're having, every time my daughters are having stomach problems. Every time. Sometimes we thought maybe it is the toilet. No.
Paul.
It's the infections.
Paul, may I bring in something? May I bring in something small there?
Please.
Now, one aspect of food safety brings in self-medication. Risk factor. That is another risk factor, because one section has done that's what we'll call a ripple effect. As a parent who goes constantly, get to learn the medicine. Now, next time it might not be food safety issue. It might be a real pathogen from something else. So that is why we need now to look at these things from a systems approach. Food was good, your daughters won't get sick. then you wouldn't be doing self-medication. So that's what I wanted.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chimera. You know, honestly, and it's the question I'm going to be asking you to explain after my brief remark, because I wanted to explain to us the impact of aflatoxins in our pockets, but also the impact of aflatoxins on the government. Let us look at that. Because honestly, if I tell you how much I spend on treating my children, it is much more money than sometimes I spend on a safe school fees. Because they're always sick.
True.
They're always sick. There is this, there is this, there is this. They're always sick. And when you look at it, it's always the way they eat, it's always the environment, it's always the dust, the sickness. For example, I should tell this, which is a bit personal. My firstborn has diabetes. He was born diabetic. He was born diabetic. And I've been wondering why. It's almost 20 years now. The one following him didn't actually get diabetes, because one would have thought that maybe it is within the gene, the genetic composition of the parents, that these two boys have got diabetes. The second one doesn't have. So when I did the research and asked the doctor, they said he might have picked it from the mother during gestation, when he was inside the womb of the mother. Now, I'm not a scientist, but I'm trying to also learn about diabetes and all that stuff. But I think that also the way we treat these people when they are pregnant, the medicine they get, because I remember very well the medicine which the mother took during that time. She was a bit sickly. I remember the clinics where she went, also the food she was eating. Now, I'm trying to add 1 and 2, that maybe this contributed to this boy is becoming diabetic. How come that the other boy didn't get diabetes, but this one got it? And I should tell you, it has been a hell of a life for him, because he has to get 3 injections a day. 3 injections, a big man now. But from the age of 9 months when we discovered, and from where? From Mulago, because they sent us to, they call it Abbey Clinic in Wandega at that time, where the tests were done. Then he went to Mulago, and he has been a patient that has grown within the premises of Mulago. From 9 months, he's almost 20 years now. He'll be 20 in May very soon. But now when you look at the cost of treating him, but also apart from the cost, the pain he goes through, I blame myself, I blame whoever, because somehow I think we would have stopped this. But somehow there's something which we didn't do right. Because how come that the other boy didn't get, yet this boy got diabetes? So to me, this topic is very important. To parents, some of us make mistakes that affect our children. We have talked about a mother who's breastfeeding. Now, if a mother is reckless to consume every that, the breast milk is being affected. It may affect the child. Now, this issue is very important, because for us who have suffered paying bills of a sick child from 9 months, special food, special sugar, special everything, you know how important it is to be careful with what we eat. For me, this is a real talk show that we need to take seriously. The way we keep our food, the medicine we take, the way we carry ourselves is very important. Back to Mr. Kimera, tell us about the impact of aflatoxins to our economy and, of course, to our pockets from your analysis.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to use you, Paul, as a case study, because you have given us the curtain riser, the pain even in your voice. For now nearly 20 years, you have a son, but they are where things are done knowingly and others are done unknowingly. Every day, consumers are victims. 1, victims of their negligence, and number 2, victims of unscrupulousness and carelessness of the would-be duty bearers. But let me start with the individuals. If you are a farmer and you start by buying inputs of poor quality, it takes us to the aspect garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Now the inputs, you go to Bernard and Professor Kaya told you very well that aflatoxin, most of it is within the soils. Now you wrongly administer, you wrongly do bad agricultural practices, you do bad post-harvesting, you end up with garbage produce, which produce is prone to aflatoxin due to your behavior, due to your practices. If you go to a market that is serious, you lose out all the investment you did right from the inputs, the labor, the natural resources, the time you spent on weeding, the time you spent harvesting, all the employees. So when you look at the journey, the value chain of pre-production to post-production onto the market, and you have a poor quality produce, you have lost thousands and even millions, both in hard cash, mental torture because of the loss. You might lose even the people you work with. You've lost soil nutrients. So most of the times when we are looking at losses, we leave out every state that has contributed to the production of something that has been condemned. Water is lost, vegetation is lost, nutrients in the soil are lost. So that is an impact to an individual as a farmer. And when you all put them together, then the community loses out. That brings in financial losses. Where you don't earn the expected income, it makes your body fragile. You end up being poor. So poverty is not only resources, but you can be nutrients poor. You can be health poor because you can't afford to take care of yourself. Then the burden of disease comes in. So to you as an individual, as communities, it makes you unproductive. Then it will go on to affect even the other socioeconomic enterprises you might have. You will not educate your children. You will not take care of your family. You will not be able to have resources to save and get a livelihood, even a good home. So you will always be in a vicious circle of poverty. That is from an individual perspective. You will be sickly. Your well-being is gone. Now let's go to the national economy. The national economy first will be burdened. It will have a healthy burden of all the citizens, starting with you as an individual, and there will be a health burden to the nation, where productivity of its citizens will be very low. Productivity of the animal husbandry will be very low. Then incomes will not be able to be got. Then the country will not be earning enough revenue. It will take care of the citizens who are a healthy burden, to take care of low revenue got. Then we will start looking from the Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank, bilateral loans, and so forth. Then the country itself will end up being in poverty. The citizens are in poverty. The country treasury is in poverty. And if we have got luxurious leaders who might not end up caring about us, then the general welfare of the country would be in poverty. Then the other aspects would be, most of the times we bring in investors, whether local or foreign, they need a market for their produce. But the market for their products cannot be sustainable if it is cyclic. So that the burden still goes that the economy of the country A is not effective because the population is sick. The population isn't productive. The population isn't skilled. In Uganda, we are always told We are not good in certain aspects because we lack skills, we have absenteeism. If I take what Bernard shares, if you have people who are affected by aflatoxin while they are in school, then it affects their education. It affects their reasoning, planning. Then the country is aflatoxin prone. So aflatoxin, food safety shouldn't be looked at a minute aspect. It might be looked as a nucleus with ripple effects if it isn't cared for to mitigate the problems that come out of it. So if we do not mind about what we take in and what facilitates our health, the whole home economy, domestic economy, national economy will be affected. That's what I could say briefly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kimera. Thank you so much, Mr. Kimera. Now we are going to go to Mr. Bernard for a wrap up. But honestly, look at these images. Even before you go there, look at these images. Me, I want to always look at these images because I know how reckless we are at preserving our food, but also at letting these guys go away with it. Look at how they are handling your food. Look at how this makeshift, small scale plants that we're using to make our food. Yes, look at how smart are they? Look at the dirt. Look at the dirt, the dust that is rising from there, and then it's going to your food. But also, we are going there to buy this food. How about we boycott? How about we say, no, I'm not buying from you? I think it starts with us as consumers to say, this is bad food. This food is not hygienic enough for me to buy. But if you encourage them to continue doing this, and then we give them money, we are encouraging them to sell us diseases. Back to you, Mr. Bernard. We are looking for the solutions. We are looking for how do we fix this? Give us how do we fix this going forward? Because this is the recap for the shows on aflatoxins. How do we avoid this as consumers, as governments? And lastly, Mr. Kamel will tell us going forward what can be the collective work of NGOs to solve this challenge in Africa. Mr. Bernard, to you, and then Mr. Kamel will wrap up.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So, in principle, the first thing that needs to be done is for us to empower consumers. First, be an empowered consumer. Because the moment I am informed and I'm empowered to make a right decision on which kind of food I'm going to eat, then we can have, instead of having these useless strikes, you'd rather have food strikes. Why can't we as consumers say that now, guys, food of this substance, we cannot eat it? Actually, what you're just saying, that is the beginning of things. And when the people who are giving us wrong food come to realize that actually they are no longer getting customers, then they will certainly improve. That is one thing I think. Because look here, the market people, the business people say, okay, my customer is my boss. You've had those kind of saying, my customer is my boss. Why should you give then your boss something that is going to kill them and then you no longer have a boss? So who's going to pay you? This is how the economy dies. So in principle, we need to say that, okay, my customer is my boss, so I must provide him something that gives him satisfaction for him to come tomorrow. So the moment the bosses of the business are not...
I normally don't interrupt you. Let me come in there. You see, we live in a world of greedy people. They call it capitalism. Me, I'm not a fan of capitalism at all, though I'm into capitalism society. But I hate capitalism. Look, someone wakes up and wants to make a killing. They want to make quick money. They want to build the best houses in the village. They want to drive the best cars. My friend, someone is even willing to use petroleum. They told us they get oil from the engines, from the they call them what? Transformers. If someone can go to transform and get petrol or oil and uses it to fry potatoes, which I like to eat. We call them chips in Africa or wherever in Uganda. And I eat them. He doesn't even mind that I'm going to get a cancer. And he feeds us 1 day, 1 year, 2 years, because he's saving. That man, that woman has no heart, has no feeling, has no logic to think that he needs me. He doesn't need me, he needs my money. Once we understand that, once government understands, and of course government is us, that people are not there to serve you. People are there to serve their needs. My friend, he doesn't care whether you die or not. You are 100. He's talking about 1,000 people. He wants money. He wants money to get rich. Now, that's why. Let me give you an example. For me, I come from Rwengo, like Mr. Kimera, right there. We used to have, I call him a Katankalas chairman, Mutabazi. I wish I could show you the photos. It's not there. It doesn't have them now, I think. Mutabazi used to get a mboko, a stick, to beat people sense in my village, in my constituency. Mutabazi was the chairman for my district. They say he was rude. Yes, from a human rights perspective, he was. But Mutabazi put sense in my people. Because my people in my villages are very stubborn and very stupid, innocently stupid. Because how can you live in a village without a toilet and sewer home? And we are in this century. Why can't I get, I speak as a lawyer, of course I know it's wrong. But sometimes people are too stupid to do the right thing. You find it, a person putting cassava, you are going to eat in soil. I mean, in a compound which is full of mud. It's affecting you. Now, if you get a rogue chairman like Mutabazi, he's going to use blood and iron like Hitler or Mussolini or whatever to beat sense in you. I'm not saying beating people is right, but sometimes people are so stupid because they want to make profit. Honestly, it brings in the aspect of government using a tough hand to enforce these policies. Mutabazi was using a wrong approach to beat people, which I don't support, honestly. But somehow, how do you awaken our people and tell them, don't allow animals to come and poo-poo in our food? And tomorrow, you sell it to us. Don't allow yourselves to put food alongside the road because tarmac has tar. Tarmac has aflatoxins. Tarmac has substance that can affect my stomach. Now, if I find you stupidly putting this food on the road, and I'm a chairman, and I do something nasty, I want to speak on the TV here. So what I'm saying is simple. And back to you in the studio, is the enforcement laxity is the cause of problems in Africa. Enforcement laxity. There are not people willing to be mad like Mutabazi, my chairman. People who are willing to be unloved, unliked. Because Mutabazi did it, he was never voted back. Because Mutabazi was a tough chairman. But somehow, he forced people to have toilets in my village, in my district. How can you be a homeowner without a toilet? How can you be a person without ensuring that your children go to school? Mutabazi could find children not in school, and he goes and canes the parents. It was wrong, but he was doing his job. He was doing his job. He finds you are dirty, you are having a factory, whatever they call them, for this small, I mean, this, how do you call them? I don't, my English is running. Now, these machines there for milling our food, kosho milling machines, he finds you when it's dirty, Mutabazi will pack his car and give you some chiboko. He does discipline to you because you are old enough to be responsible. You only want to get profits. Back to you, Mr. Kimera. Now, as we wrap up, I was simply giving you my side of the story, that if I was the president, if I was the chairman, if I was someone with responsibility in Uganda, I'd have been a Mutabazi. Sometimes people are very stubborn. They would have said this man is very bad, but honestly, how do you put discipline in the big people? They have refused to learn. They want to make profits. How do we discipline them? We either imprison them or give them chiboko. Those are my words. Don't take them for whatever. But honestly, I'm annoyed with my people. Back to Mr. Kimera.
Actually, you're just an empowered consumer, just like we're saying. So the moment us, the consumers, are empowered to make right decisions on what kind of food we want to eat, then we can influence even the people who are dealing with the food.
Yeah.
Now, going back to how we can do other things. Now, when you look at the policies in this country, we have numerous of them.
Yes.
I want to give you a scenario of the UNBS. The UNBS came up a few years ago and they made a pronouncement that all schools henceforth shall buy grain from certified companies. But this is about 2-3 years ago, and none of the schools, we don't know how many of the schools are buying from the certified producer. So when it comes to wasting energy to develop a standard or to develop, policies, and then there is no one enforcing them, then it becomes a challenge. Unfortunately, even the head teachers have not been sensitized on this subject. The staff who are working in schools, they don't have any information on this subject, but there is a law already in place. I don't know that it's an act or whatever it is. But also we see that the enforcement is a challenge in this country, and I think that is where things are going wrong. But also the other thing we mentioned last time that aflatoxins love, they want exposure. The moment you have food which is broken, the moment you have any opening on the food, then the aflatoxin has space to enter through. If you look at the previous photos, you'll see guinnets have already been, unsorted guinnets, everything is added there. So all those guinnets you're seeing on the ground, they will be collected afresh and put in a milling machine or whatever it is, and then they make, something out of it, which is something that is very, very wrong. So our farmers should know, we should sensitize our farmers, but also we should enforce. Now, when you look at those guinnets in that photo, for example, this other woman is trying to sort, but the question is, what is she going to use the sorted one? So you find that they will proceed and make, butter from it, they make a lot of vinegar paste from it, and yet that wouldn't be a recommendation for it. When you look at that machine in our picture, it is entirely non-food grade. And we are all hiding in the name of build Uganda, buy Uganda, buy Uganda, build Uganda.
Yes.
But which kind of process is this? If we come up with buy Uganda, build Uganda, then there should be a standard and a regulation that works to prevent this kind of nonsense. When you look at our farmers, some of these farmers know even what to do, but the challenge is that there is no value addition to their produce. If, for example, they bring maize, which is dirty, and the other one which is not dirty, the cost is the same. So you find that the farmer asks you now, okay, I have sorted the maize. I have given you the best quality maize. What about now the other one who has dirty one? Now you see that you are buying a kilogram of maize at the same cost. So the farmers get demotivated with this kind of stuff, and so they end up doing what is wrong. Now, it would be the responsibility of our government to regulate some of these market dynamics to make sure that, okay, you have an additional value to your produce if you sell it in this stage, or you have this added to your food if you have it at this stage. So I think that's why the Europe and America and other continents beat us, because for them, they have grades of food. For us here, we don't have any grade of food. As long as it is kosher in the market, it will be bought at the same cost. So farmers will get a little bit demoralized and all this. But also the other reality is that the aflatoxins are also in the other food, especially the animals. So where do we buy animal feed? How do we make animal feed? Last week, actually, Professor's father lost. Now it's closer to 200 bags, just because of consuming feed that was having aflatoxins. Now the question is, when those animals died, what did the professor's father do to the supplier? You get it? Because I was telling Professor, yes.
The odds are that they were eaten by people at home, or they were sold. All of us know this.
Yeah.
All of us know this. That in my home district, if an animal died in my village, no one is going to throw it away. I'm speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth.
Yes, but why do you think? But why do you think that is the case? It is the case because the people in your community do not understand that when I eat food, for example, meat with anthrax, then me, the consumer, I am at risk of getting anthrax, and yet Uganda as a country does not have treatment to treat you for anthrax.
Exactly.
So we have to send you to Nairobi But when you go to Nairobi, you first sell your whole land to go and get that medication.
Exactly.
This is the common sense we need to put in our people, in our consumers, so that they can make right decisions, just like I said. So I think as much as possible, government is investing less in awareness creation on this aspect. We are also investing less in research to come up with innovation that have to solve this problem. Because there was, for example, we can give you an example from CGIAR. There's that organization, a research organization. We were doing research on aflatoxins for about 10 years. They came up with a solution called AFLASAFE. AFLASAFE is a biosolution that can actually eliminate aflatoxins from grains. Now, after doing that research, tested the research and it worked. But how many farmers have access to the product? It was since 2013. This is 2023. The product is not on the market. But why is it not on the market? Politics. No, you see, when you put it on a so you don't have certification of this. So the science has not been supported to actually push out the innovations to the last person. And this is role of
I will stop you there, Bernard. I'll stop you there, Bernard, because we're very short of time. We have 4 minutes, which I'm going to give to Mr. Kimera to wrap up and give us a touch into the next show next month.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. All the aspects that I wanted to share, both of you, when you started relating, you raised the issues, what civil society needs to be doing, and other business support organizations, even government departments. That is policy implementation, awareness, and capacity building for the different players in the food industry. So having said that all to you now, our listeners, you have a knowledge on food safety with regards to fraud, and then we brought in a segment of aflatoxin. Now we would wish, and this is our aspiration, next month, we want you to get to know the consumer organizations that are on the African continent, who are part of the championing food safety in the respective African states. So the month of March is when we have the World Consumer Rights Day. Now we are going to dedicate March to consumer organization with regards to food safety and other components that are affecting consumers on the African continent, and then and other continents globally. So we will be discussing many things during the month, and we will be bringing on board different consumer organizations in Uganda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Zambia. We'll go to West Africa, Ghana. We'll bring in Senegal, Gambia, Nigeria, and even Egypt. And also we'll be getting our colleagues from North Africa. We'll see if we can get somebody who can speak English, or if they are speaking French or Arabic, they will come into the Humanist TV Africa to bring out the consumer organizations, and that will be great. So we look forward to being with you in March. It is the consumer awareness, the World Consumer Rights Month, but 15th March is the World Consumer Rights Day, when it is observed globally. But the whole month, I would like to thank Paul with all your team at Humanist Africa TV for allowing us to champion consumer issues, starting with food safety. As we tag along, we'll go into all other aspects, digital finance, product safety, transport safety, or road safety onwards. Thank you very much, and it is a pleasure being with you, colleagues. God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kimera. Thank you very much, Mr. Bernard. Thank you very much, Dennis Bongo in the studio. And of course, thank you so much, the viewers. You have been very wonderful. You have supported us. We are having thousands of people watching this show on Facebook. Please continue watching, but also please subscribe to our channel and be able to watch these and more other shows. I'm happy that the experts have been here. I've been learning from them. I've been making mistakes personally. Personally, I've been making mistakes back home in Africa, and I'm going to do good, having learned a lot of lessons from these experts here. Yesterday, I should tell you this before I go. Yesterday, I was cooking beans. I cook for myself here, and I buy beans from a shop. It's owned by an Asian. It's an Asian family, but they sell food from Africa because us Africans or Black people love our food. So I go there buy. So we have beans. I was cooking them yesterday, but before I cook, of course, I had to sort them. And I thought because they're in the UK, they should be safe. So, and these are from Uganda. So I opened the seal and poured in the saucepan to boil. Then I realized there are some stones. Beans from Uganda. From Uganda. Remember, the systems here trusted our system in Uganda that the food is safe. Because when you look at them on the surface, they look so nice. They were stones. So I put them on a table. I began screening. I got about 8 stones in them and some husks. Beans from Uganda. So
Paul,
hard stones.
do you know the weight of those stones? The weight of those 8 stones. So you lost some grammage.
Exactly. And there are some husks in them. Now, I was like very confident because these are beans which the UK has already permitted to be used in the UK. For them, they knew that the Ugandan government has done their best because these are sealed in a cavera and they are so clean, they are so washed. But my friend, the stones are there because someone wanted to make money.
I'm sad.
See you in the next one.
Okay.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right.